The first part of this video, we went over the letter that you receive in the mail from the Department of Child Support Services, and I explained a few things that I thought you should know about the letter. Now we're going to look at the notice of motion. We can tell that this is called the notice of motion because the title is here, notice of motion, and then we check the boxes what we're asking for. The form number is in the upper right-hand corner of the document. I can't remember the form numbers, and I don't try, because if somebody messes up the name of a form number or the number of a form, then I can't figure out what they're talking about. But if they slightly mess up the name of a document, I can figure out what they're talking about. Also, the name of the documents appear in the bottom center of the document. You can tell here when the last time the document was modified by the Judicial Council. And sometimes documents get updated and you're dealing with an old document. This is an old document. It hasn't been updated for a while. But for example, the income and expense declaration was recently updated. So you can rely on the fact that the documents you get in the mail from the Department of Child Support Services are the most current documents you should be filling out. And then a lot of documents will have a statute number down here. This one doesn't. But you can go read about the laws pertaining to that particular document by reading the statute that's listed in the lower right-hand corner. Document. The name of the attorney and the organization that completed this document is going to be in the upper left-hand corner. I call this section the title block of the document. On Department of Child Support Services forms, the CSE number is going to be here. There's going to be a phone number, an email address, and then it's going to say who the attorney is an attorney for. In this case, it lists a family code, but it lists me as the attorney, and I can tell you I'm the attorney for Lassen County Department of Child Support Services. Next section is going to say what county the court is in and the address of the court. Then the petitioner, the respondent, and the other parent are going to be listed. Sometimes the petitioner is the county that filed the form. Sometimes it's another county. Sometimes it's one of the parents in the case. It really just depends on how the case got started. And then we've got the court case number. Now we have this little section here that tells us what we're asking for. So here we're asking for a modification of child support and a seek work order. This form is going to be addressed to the parent who's asked to pay child support. So to, in this case, it'll be the name of the non-custodial parent, the date, time, and department of the court number or of the court are going to be listed here. So this is your court date, your court time, the department you need to show up at, and then the court address is going to be here. And if it's the same as above, that box will be checked. Then there's going to be a section checking which supporting documents are attached. And then a little notice. If you wish to have a trial, you must appear at the hearing on this request. And then the attorney whose office filled this out, their name and signature is going to be there. This section is usually blank. I see this filled out if there's an order shortening time or an ex parte order. Pretty uncommon in child support matters. On to the next page. So the next page, again, has the name of the parties and the case number. Up here, it's got a notice, and the notice says a number of things. The first thing that it says is that a court commissioner might hear this case. And so a lot of times people don't know what a commissioner is. I explain it as a court commissioner is to a court judge as a long-term substitute teacher is to a school teacher. So the commissioner is acting as a temporary judge and has been given the power to hear this case if you agree to it and make a decision. Now, there are very specific things you need to do if you don't agree to have the commissioner hear the case, and I can get into that in another video. But if you object to the commissioner hearing the case and you go through all the proper steps, the commissioner is still probably going to hear the case and make a recommendation, and then the judge will determine if the proposed order of the commissioner should become the order of the court. I've actually had a couple cases where party went through the entire process of objecting to the commissioner properly, and we actually had a short hearing before the presiding judge about the commissioner's ruling, and the presiding judge actually made a different ruling. It was kind of interesting. So that's kind of a tangent, but that's basically, what's behind this notice in the first paragraph. Next paragraph, child support is based on your ability to pay, which may include your income, earning capacity, lifestyle, or presumed income set by law. The amount of child support can be large and can continue until your child reaches 18. You should give the court information about your income and expenses. If you do not, the support order will be based on other information given to the court or presumed income set by default or set by statute. So basically, this is saying that child support can be based on what you actually earn, what you could earn, your manner of living, or presumed income that's set by law, or income could be imputed. So I can't always guarantee that if you participate in the case, you're going to like the outcome. In fact, I can almost always guarantee that you're not going to be happy with the outcome. But it's pretty rare that you're happier with the outcome if you don't participate than if you do. So participate in the case. It might still be painful, but at least you will have participated. Next paragraph, you do not have to pay any fee to file your response to Governmental Notice of Motion or order to show cause, and your completed income and expense declaration or financial statement. You must file any documents with the court and have copies served at least 9 court days before the hearing date to the local child support agency and the other party unless ordered otherwise, and 5 calendar days if the motion is served by mail within California. And then it lists some codes. To determine court days and calendar days, go to, and then it has a link. So basically, calendar days are literally every day, and court days are days that the court is open. So then this next part is a proof of service for the child support representative that served this motion. It's going to have the business address of the person who served the motion. It's going to say how they served it. Please stop, Terry. In this case, they served it by placing the motion in a sealed envelope with postage paid and depositing the envelope in the mail at their place of business for same-day collection and mailing within the U.S., following the business practice, which this person is familiar with. Then the date that the motion was mailed will be there and the place it was mailed from. And then it's going to have some information about how the envelope was addressed. So in this section here is the non-custodial parent or the parent paying child support. If you are the non-custodial parent, it's going to have your name and address, and then it'll have the name of the custodial parent over here. And basically what this text means is that we're not giving you the address of the other parent. It's on file with the Department of Child Support Services. And if you're the custodial parent, then this notice is going to be over here under the non-custodial parent's name, and your address will be here. Okay, and then the address for each individual identified in 3 above, and then a box is going to be checked. In this case, verified by the California Support Enforcement System as the current primary mailing address on file. So Department of Child Support Services has a magic system that lets us interface with a bunch of other agencies and lets us get information that the normal everyday person can't get. And we can go through that system to verify your address and serve you and the other party at those addresses. So then here's the declaration of under penalty of perjury, and it's going to be dated. You're going to have the name of the person who did the serving, and it's probably not going to be signed because they can't declare under penalty of perjury that they already served the document when they haven't yet dropped it in the mail to you and the other party. I go over that in another video as well. On to the next page. So this is the next page of the notice of motion. It's a different form number, and it's actually a different form name. It's a request for order and supporting declaration, but it still goes with the notice of motion. So up here is going to be the party information and the case number. And then there's going to be the names of the child or children, depends on how many are in the case, and then their birth dates. And if parentage hasn't already been established, that box will be checked, but in this case, parentage has already been established. Now we move on, and this is what we're asking for. So we've checked the box, child support, monthly child support based on the state guideline. An income withholding order for support will be issued. So this is what's requested. This is a request for a change to an existing order, and that existing order was filed on 11/30/17, and it was ordering that the non-custodial party pay $535 a month in child support. We're asking that this new order be effective 2/1/20. So in private family law cases, I frequently see the order take effect the date that the motion is filed. In child support cases, the order usually takes effect the first day of the month after the motion was filed. And that's because the child support system isn't set up very well to deal with partial months. They can make it happen, but it's not how they like to do it. So this will tell you what date they're asking support be effective. And the court can only make support effective. So let me rephrase this. The latest the court can make this modified order effective is the date that the motion is filed. If the department asks for a later date, like the first of the month, which, could be 2 weeks from the date it's filed, then that's the earliest date. But here's the deal. The court has the discretion not to make the order retroactive to the date requested. The court has the authority to make the order effective the day the hearing is and the order is made, or some later date. So be aware of that. Usually our court makes it effective the date we ask for here. Now, if we were asking for health insurance orders, that box here would be checked. I'll go over health insurance orders in another video. If fees or costs were asked for, we'd put that there. If property restraint were asked for, we'd put it there. Very rarely do my offices ask for anything in 4 or 5. So here is really the reason why we're asking for these things on this next page. Again, up here, we've got the names of the parties and the court case number. Here is one other request, and we frequently make this other request, and in this case, it's for a seek work order. If the current support order is 0, or in each month the respondent is unable to pay the entire child support amount ordered due to unemployment or underemployment, the respondent must actively seek work. Exceptions are when the respondent is actively participating in welfare to work program, is currently incarcerated or institutionalized, or is receiving government disability. So a lot of people object to this. They say, but I'm already working. We don't need the seek work order. The seek work order is put into effect so that if a non-custodial party, a party owing support, stops working, loses their job, something of that effect, or if support is at 0, then this order kicks in. Okay, so now here's why we're asking for all of this. This is our explanation. This is the facts in support. Some counties don't put a whole lot here. My counties do a pretty good job filling this out. Okay, pretty good job. No, they do a really good job filling this out, and I really like that because it lets the parties know what they're actually asking for and why. And it lets the parties know if they're relying on some inaccurate information. So it's very important to read this. In this case, this says I, and then they'll have the name, and it's going to be the staff member who filled out this document, declare that I have directly worked on the above caption case in my capacity as a child support specialist employed with the Lassen County Department of Child Support Services, DCSS. In that capacity, I'm familiar with the pleadings, records, and papers on file in this matter. On 12/10/19, respondent, in this case non-custodial party, requested a child support review and adjustment. He cited a change in visitation as the change in circumstances. The current income and visitation information for both parties was used to calculate the monthly child support obligation on the statewide guideline calculation. See Exhibit A. Father's monthly income is $980 a month. His income was calculating using year-to-date wages for the period of 10/1/18 to 12/31/18 from the Employment Development Department. See Exhibit B. His tax filing status is single with one exemption. Per the visitation verification, his visitation is 3%. See Exhibit C. And so this next part is where we put the information for the other party. So if mom were the other party, then we would have the same sort of information we had above for dad for mom. But in this case, the other party is a non-needy relative. So it could be aunt and uncle, it could be older sibling, it could be grandma, grandpa, could be second cousin. We don't necessarily know who, it's just a non-needy relative. So we'll read this. Non-needy relative. No income was used in the calculation as the custodial party is the, and then here it actually states how they're related to the child, basically non-needy relative of the children on this case. The monthly CalWorks benefit is $656. Her tax filing status is head of household with 3 exemptions. Based on the information, DCSS is respectfully requesting that father, it actually has his name here, be ordered to pay child support in the amount of $73 per month for, and then it lists the child's name, and $121 per month for, and then it lists the other child's name, for a total of $197 effective 2/1/19. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that come to mind when I read this section. So a lot of times when I see a child support order come out of a private family law case, I won't have a per child monthly breakdown. It'll just say that dad is to pay $194 a month in child support, and it won't say how much he's to pay for each child. Well, that will trigger the Department of Child Support Services to file a motion to get a per child monthly breakdown. So here we go. We have our per child monthly breakdown. The less time dad spends with the children, the less the other party's income is going to affect the child support. In this case, it's a non-needy relative, and so their income doesn't get considered at all for purposes of support. When there's going to be a modification of a child support order, there has to be a substantial change of circumstances. So the most usual, please stop, baby. The most frequent substantial changes of circumstances I see are a change of income to either party or a change in visitation. And then the department has certain guidelines that if the change in the support order meets those guidelines, we go forward and file the motion. But I like the motions to specifically say what the changed circumstances is. And so it does in this case. Change in visitation. Okay, so then down at the bottom, it'll be dated. The name of the person who filled out the form will be typed, and it'll usually be signed by that person. So now we go on to the attachments. Not every county has all of these attachments, but my counties do, and I love it because then everybody knows exactly what we're asking for. So here's Exhibit A. This is a guideline child support calculation. And it looks a little bit different than the DISO master or the ex-spouse calculation that private attorneys spit out, but this is what we use in the Department of Child Support Services cases, and there's a free version of it online, so you don't even have to spend extra money to do a child support calculation. So in another video, I go through doing a child support calculation. I'm not going to go through it in great detail here. I'm just going to circle some important information. So this is what we're actually asking for in child support. Up here, it'll say, it doesn't necessarily say who the non-custodial and the custodial party are, but you can tell who it is by reading the declaration. So here we're asking for $194 a month. Everything that we described in our declaration earlier in the document should find its way into this document. So go ahead, double check, make sure it does. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask your case manager or ask the attorney. If you think something's incorrect, go ahead, ask your case manager, tell the attorney. Some people get irritated by that, but in my offices, we are more than happy to explain why we did what we did. And if we did something incorrectly, we want to know. Sometimes participants find something that we missed. So look it over, ask us questions, become familiar. Down here is the names and birth dates of the kids, the timeshare that the non-custodial party has with the kids, and the amount of support that the party is paying per child. And then sometimes there are add-ons for things like travel for visitation, health uncovered healthcare costs, child care. Anyway, if those exist in the case, they'll be here. And then there's some more information down here. I'm going to breeze through this because, again, I've gone through this in another video. Next page is blank. Your document should be double-sided. More information about the calculation. This is where that year-to-date information is entered and where the income comes out, because the program actually calculates the monthly income based on this year-to-date information. I love this function. And then the public assistance received by the custodial parent is going to be listed down here. Sometimes people get up in arms. That's not income for purposes of support. Nope, it's not. But it still needs to be listed in the calculation because it gives us an accurate picture of the financial situation of the parties, so that if the situation changes in the future, we can look at the old calculations, we can look at the new situation, we can see how things have changed. Next page is blank. This next page often doesn't have a whole lot on it, but it's worth looking at anyway. Next page is blank. Now we have Exhibit B. So this is Dad's income information. One of my clients submits these to the court. The other client does not submit these to the court. When I'm doing the calculation and the declaration, I don't submit this page. I submit the list that we get showing the historic income. That's part of the magic that our system interfaces with. But anyway, if we had an income and expense declaration from the non-custodial parent, we would have that income and expense declaration and pay stub in place of this, but that's not what we have in this case. So probably what happened here was Dad didn't do his income and expense declaration when he was asked to. And so when it came time for us to do the motion, we had to go to our system and see what our system said his income was. This information isn't always the most up-to-date information. This is 2018 information, and this is how much he made. Quarterly information was plugged in, out popped his monthly income. Another thing is, this part of the system doesn't show how much a party pays for health insurance. It doesn't show if they have cyclical overtime, although we take a 12-month average, so we'd catch that overtime anyway. Doesn't show if they're contributing to retirement. This doesn't show a lot of things that if you do your income and expense declaration and provide your pay stubs, we will be able to see. So on to the next page. This is Exhibit C. This is the visitation verification. So it's got the CSE number here. The person who completed its name is here. It was completed by the non-custodial parent, and then they fill out how many hours per month they, in this case the non-custodial parent, has with the children. And sometimes it's a custodial parent, they're filling out how many hours per month the non-custodial parent has with the children. And sometimes they match, sometimes we don't. We present the information to the court, and it's up to the court to decide how much time the parents spend with the children. There are multiple pages to this form. And so this is where a parent can actually spell out what the custody arrangement is. This form we don't actually send out in my Lassen County office, but some offices do send this out, and this is actually a notice to appear and then sometimes produce. So you're not going to see this come out of my Lassen County office. You may see this in other offices. It's going to have the case number, the CSE number, the name of the court, the parties, going to say what the court date, time, location is, and then it's going to give you some instructions. Under Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1987B, your attendance is required at the hearing as set forth by Lassen County Department of Child Support Services. You are not required to bring any documents with you except as otherwise indicated below. And then if the department is instructing you to bring documents, they'll check here what they need you to bring. So here are the options. Under Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1987C, you are directed to bring the following documents that are in your possession or under your control. And that's the important part, or under your control. So a lot of times people don't have the specific documents in their possession, but they're under their control. So this one here, the first option is copies of, and then it'll have the name of the parties' pay stubs for the last 12 months. And so let's say that this is for the non-custodial parent, dad. The non-custodial parent isn't always dad. Sometimes it's mom. But let's say it's for dad and he's a non-custodial parent and we want his last 12 months of pay stubs. Well, dad probably doesn't have all 12 months of pay stubs. Few people do. But it's in his control to go get them. So he needs to go to the HR department, go to his employer, and get copies of the last 12 months of pay stubs. Another thing that might be checked is state and federal tax returns for the past 2 years. Maybe the non-custodial parent or the parent that gets this form doesn't have those in their possession, but they can go to their accountant, they can get a copy, they can print them off from the computer software they use to do their taxes. They can go to the IRS or the FTB and get a copy of those taxes, although that one's going to take a while. Next option is completed income and expense declaration. So in the case of this non-custodial parent, he may want to do an updated income and expense declaration, even though he's not being told to, because his income situation might be different than it was back in 2018. He might be paying for health insurance. He might have another kid. His tax filing status might be wrong, any number of things. So even though he's not being told to do it, he probably is going to want to do an updated income and expense declaration. Next option is documents of any hardship or other deductions being requested by, it'll have your name, and then other. If the department needs you to bring anything else, they'll list it here. This notice has the same force and effect as a subpoena. If name of the participant, in this case, father, fails to produce the requested documents, Lassen County Department of Child Support Services will seek sanctions and will seek to introduce secondary evidence to the contents of the requested documents. And then it's dated and signed. Again, my Lassen County office doesn't do these, but you might see something like this in your packet from the department. Next page is blank. And then in the next video, I'm going to go over how to fill out a response to the motion.